Hello, good evening. Welcome to Untitled. Thank you so much for joining me once again. As you know, on this program, we seek to provide you with useful information that will guide your decision making and improve your lives. On today's edition, we will discuss the filing of taxes. Many of us don't like that issue of taxes. We are swiftly approaching the deadline for filing of taxes in Dominica, and therefore I thought it was an opportune time to educate us on the processes for filing and related considerations, such as the issue of delinquency and penalties. You're welcome to call in with your queries on 225-3400 and 611-3400. My guests this evening are Ms. Lydia Talbot, Assistant Controller Collections, and Mr. Geoffrey Joseph, Assistant Controller Audit. Good evening, Mrs. Talbot, and good evening, Mr. Joseph.
Good evening, Pierre.
Yeah. Now, I knew you at grammar school back in the days, so nice to have you here. Can you tell us about yourself and the work that you do at the IRD?
Good evening, viewers. Good evening, listeners. First, I would just like to thank Almighty Yahweh for affording myself and my colleague, Geoffrey Joseph, the opportunity to be on this program where we could educate and inform the public about the importance of filing taxes. As indicated, my name is Lydia Talbot. I have been employed with the government of Dominica for the past 25 years. Currently, attached at the Inland Revenue Division. Currently, I am the Assistant Comptroller in the Collections and Compliance Section acting. My duties are, but not limited to, monitoring the collection of arrears, ensuring that the correct amount of taxes are paid. Also, I have to ensure that the level of compliance is maintained in respect to the filing of tax returns by the due dates.
Okay. Thank you, Geoffrey.
Good evening, everyone, and it's a pleasure to be here to again inform and educate the public. My name is Geoffrey Joseph. I am the Acting Assistant Controller in the LMTS section of Inland Revenue Audit, and I've been employed with the Inland Revenue Division for the last 17 years. So it's really an honor to be here this evening to explain to the people exactly what our functions are as it relates to ensuring that the taxpaying public is compliant.
Thank you very much again. Welcome. Before we get into the discussion, can you describe for us, the listeners, the function of the Inland Revenue Division?
The Inland Revenue, our main function is that of the assessment and collection of taxes. However, we are also responsible to effectively administer the various taxes which fall under its authority, and to encourage and achieve the highest possible level of voluntary compliance in accordance with the laws and regulations. The taxes that falls under the authority of the Inland Revenue Division are personal income tax, value-added tax, corporate tax, excise tax, residential levy, residential rent act, pay as you earn, withholding tax.
Thank you very much. Now, when we talk about filing taxes, what does this mean?
Filing taxes essentially is making a declaration to the Comptroller of Inland Revenue of your annual taxes, or your annual income, I would say, and the relative taxes that will be applied to it. That's basically what it is. It's just a submission of your income for the past fiscal year or financial year.
And in terms of there's a period for filing. What is the tax filing season? And when is the deadline for filing our taxes in Dominica?
The tax filing season is generally the time period between 1st of January to 1st of March, where taxpayers will submit what they would have earned, their annual income, on their tax returns. The filing due date is March 31st. However, there are also corporations who would have a financial year in December 31st. So they too will have to file during that time. For corporate tax returns, however, 3 months after, they have different fiscal years, right? Fiscal periods. So 3 months after, they will have to file their tax return. So for instance, you have a tax corporation with a fiscal year ending June 30th. That corporation would have 3 months thereafter to file a tax return. So that means they would have to file by September.
Okay. Now, in terms of the personal income tax, which is the most popular one among citizens, you have an end of March deadline.
Right.
Is an extension you allow the taxpayer?
If the taxpayer for some reason or the other is unable to file their taxes by the due date, then they need to write to the comptroller to inform of whatever the reason is, and then the comptroller will decide whether or not they will grant the extension to file. Yeah.
Okay.
But
Please
note that they are supposed to do so before the end of the filing period, before March 31st.
Okay, so you're right. Rather saying I'm having difficulty in getting documentation, so on. Okay.
Yeah.
Now, why is it important to file taxes, which is distinct from paying taxes? And the other question in that is, why is the act of filing so very important?
Well, the act of filing, PM, is really important because you need to actually declare what your income is to the Comptroller of Inland Revenue, as you said earlier. And it is a different process from actually paying taxes, because you can actually file your taxes without having any liability if, when we look at what the law stipulates based on your income and your type of activities, you do not have to pay any taxes. So really, filing taxes is a lot different from paying the taxes. The filing process is a matter of just making a declaration to the comptroller so that you can determine whether or not you have actually paid your correct amount of taxes. So it's a matter of verification, actually. And it is very important that persons see that as a civic duty, you know, a process of I would say, national pride. Because at the end of it, the tax collection is what the government really uses to ensure that the state functions properly. You know, we look at certain things as healthcare, education, and so on. These things are widely supported, obviously, through the tax revenue that we have collected. So we see it as person's civic duty. You know, I think persons should look at it as an opportunity to contribute to the development of the state, and they should ensure that they file properly so that we can determine whether or not that they have paid the sufficient amount of taxes, the correct amount of taxes, I should add. You know, because we're not in the business of taking anything extra. We're just here to ensure that you actually pay what is due or what you're supposed to pay based on the law.
Because you can file and not owe the IRD anything.
That's right.
And are there instances where the IRD owes you?
Definitely.
Could owe you?
Yes.
So it's important that people file.
Definitely, that's right.
If it's failed to file, you know,
you
run the risk of you making your own assessment of what they may have earned.
Right. That's right.
And then there are penalties and interest.
Definitely.
We'll talk about this later. Okay.
Sure.
Okay, cool.
Yes. Yeah.
Well, who should file taxes, though?
Every resident individual who is in excess of $30,000, whose employment income is in excess of $30,000, should file taxes. We also have self-employed persons.
That's $30,000. That's a tax threshold.
Yes, that's a tax threshold. $30,000 in excess of that tax threshold. Right. So anytime you go above it, the excess will be taxed. So then you're supposed to file.
Okay.
So we also have individuals self-employed, such as contractors. We have vendors, hairdressers, doctors. That's the private one, and lawyers. They're also supposed to file a tax return. We also have the non-residents who are supposed to file a tax return. However, they are not allowed to claim any residential tax allowance. With residential allowance, they're not allowed to charge tax.
To apply. Yeah.
Right, it's not applicable. We have corporations. As long as you're a corporation, as long as you are, even if you have a profit or loss, you're still supposed to file a tax return. The only people who are not supposed to file a tax return are those who are exempt from tax by virtue of Section 25 of the Income Tax Act, such as the pensioners, the fishermen, agriculture. These are the only people.
Okay.
I must say, sorry,
please.
I must say though that even if a corporation has been given the a tax exemption, fiscal act, on a fiscal act, incentive act, you're still supposed to file a tax return.
You still have to file.
Yes.
Right. I know. What are the different rates of taxation now?
Okay, so unlike the corporate income tax, where we have a standard rate of 25%, for the personal income tax, which is a progressive tax, meaning that as the higher income, the chargeable income, it's like the higher tax that you pay. So anything in excess of the $30,000, the difference will be charged from $0 to $20,000. The difference will be charged at 15%. Anything from $20,001 to $50,000, tax rate is at 25%, sorry. And then from $50,000, anything above $50,000, tax rate is at 50%. 35%. Thank you.
35%. Well, that's just to say to the viewing and listening public, we've started a process of reviewing the tax system because it be my wish to see us having one flat rate across the board. So the IMF is helping us with reviewing the tax system, and I'm hoping that we can get a report. We've been held back because of COVID and all of the other challenges. But I'm of the view that we should look at a simplified system and one flat rate and so forth. But that's just an aside.
Right.
Now, how can an individual file his or her taxes? Should it be done in person or can it be done online?
Okay, well, first of all, I must note that our tax system is a self-assessment based system, right? So we encourage persons to obtain the relative information that is necessary to file the taxes, such as their different sources of income, and to obtain or to get the information as to what allowances and so on they would have to apply to their income. Persons this year are encouraged to file paper-based returns. Unfortunately, I guess with technology, certain things happen because we were effectively operating our online filing program through our e-services, but we had some technical issues. So for this year, we are encouraging all persons to file the paper-based return. However, we have set up I would say, an online system where we have persons are able to access our website. That's www.ird.gov.dm. Right? Yeah, that's what this is. So they access that website and they could go to the Forms tab. And when they get to the Forms tab, you could go ahead. Yeah. When you get to the Forms tab, you could choose the form that relates to your type of filing. In this case, as we're speaking about corporate income taxes and so on. So you could download the form, the PDF version, and you could fill that out and you could submit it to the Inland Revenue via email. So you scan that form along with all the other supporting documents necessary, and you send it to the email address at ird@dominica.gov.dm. Okay? So that's ird@dominica.gov.dm, and you could do this from the comfort of your home, Yeah.
Okay. So all in the process of trying to facilitate people.
Right.
Okay. Yeah. Now, do individuals and companies follow the same filing process?
Yes. Actually, the filing process doesn't change because of either individuals or companies. Essentially, as we said, it's a declaration of your income. So the process of filling a return and submitting it to the comptroller is the same for both individuals and corporations. What is different is the content. For individuals are required to submit all their sources of income or to declare all their sources of income, whether or not they're self-employed or whether or not they are employed by a company or corporation. And that income is also subject to various adjustments, such as different allowances and different exempt sources of income that you could apply. Additionally, there are also allowances that would apply to this source of income that would then bring about the calculation of your chargeable income. So just for clarity's sake, let us suppose someone has a source of income from either employment and also from a small business. They would have to combine these. And if for whatever reason let's just say they were sick, let's say for last year, and they had to claim Social Security benefits. If that benefit was paid directly to the employer, they can now, because that source of income is an exempt source of income, they can now apply that and reduce their chargeable income. If their other business, for instance, was they had to incur certain expenses in order to obtain that other source of income from their business, let's say, they would be allowed to claim the expenses relating to that. A typical example of that is something like traveling claim or mileage claim, you know. And this calculation at the end would also be subject to your various allowances. Allowances such as your residential allowance, which is essentially the threshold of $30,000, so that gets removed. We also have the allowance of the mortgages. There's a $30,000 allowance on mortgage interest paid on your first mortgage. So let's suppose someone is living in their home and they're paying a mortgage and they have paid up to $30,000 on that particular property where they're staying. They're allowed to claim that as mortgage interest. Additionally, if they have a second home and they have a mortgage, they're allowed to claim up to $15,000 against that, against their income on that. So that's an additional allowance. There also is the allowance for student loans. So persons who have gone to study or they're actually paying a student loan on behalf of a relative or so on, they are allowed to claim up to $5,000 of the interest paid against that student loan. And additionally, for the good citizens out there who make donations to various charitable organizations, as long as it is to an approved charitable organization, you're allowed to claim that expense against your chargeable income. So all of these deductions would come after your annual income, and then we determine what your chargeable income is, and then we apply the progressive tax rate to it. So
you're saying to us that having a mortgage would reduce how much tax you would pay?
Definitely, definitely. So these are what we call the allowances. So in addition to just, as Mrs. Talbot said, the threshold being $30,000, there's still the opportunity if someone has a mortgage of $30,000 and a second home of $15,000, that's already $75,000 of their income that is not taxed.
Yes, sir.
You understand? So,
and that exemption would be throughout the period, the year. So
yes, it's annually. Yes, every year.
Right.
Yes.
In advance. So you file at the end of March. Going forward for that year, that exemption would be in effect.
What you're speaking about is an adjustment.
Adjustment.
Yes. So this is different. What we're asking persons to file right now, which means that you're declaring what happened last year.
Okay, I see. Yeah.
Going forward, if you would like to, and
you have an adjustment.
So that throughout the year you benefit from that reduction in tax.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. So you call it an adjustment. Then?
Yes.
All right. Now, walk us through the process, though, because people want to know, how do I benefit, taxes and how the tax system works. Now, let us say my income is $3,000 a month, which would make an annual income for $36,000. How much tax would I pay at the end of the fiscal year or the tax year if I have no other income?
Okay, should you have no other income, you will have to pay an amount of $900. How does that? How do we calculate that? You have the $36,000 annual for the year. You would deduct the $30,000 residential allowance. That's what we get before any tax are deducted. You deduct that from it, so you're left with $6,000. Then 15%, you get 15% of that amount because right now you're falling within its 0 to 20% bracket. Remember, PIT has personal income tax, or PIT has 3 different tax brackets. So right now the taxpayer is that individual falls within the 15% bracket. So we get 15% of that $6,000, which will give us $900 for the year. However, we can further go down. Like if you want to find how much you'll be paying for a month, you would divide that by 12 to get $775 per month. Sorry.
So somebody with $3,000 a month salary, which is $36,000 a year, would pay only $900 for the entire year, which is what, about $75 or so dollars a month. A month. Okay.
Okay. Yeah. So PM, as we're discussing this issue or this area, this topic, we wanted to sensitize the viewers as to the simplicity of the process, and I'm using the same example that you gave. So essentially, the first slide that we have up here is just to get your basic information, right? It's very, very simple, and we put it up to show the simplicity because a lot of people get scared when they hear about filing taxes. They're like, I can't do this, but it's very, very, very simple. This is your personal information where you put in your name, your address, your date of birth, your social security, your nationality, your marital status, your different contact information, and if you are employed, who is your employer, and so on. And that essentially is a very, very simple process that any and everyone should be able to do. The second section that we're showing here is actually, and this is from the IT4A form. This is the simple form where someone has only employment income, right? If we look at line 1000, it basically says that it's wages and salaries from employment. And that is essentially where you put your annual income. It means all the emoluments that you would have received for the year. That is the line that you put that in. So in the example that you gave, that's $36,000. You put it on line 1000. Supposing that you had any other allowable deductions, such as as I mentioned earlier, the traveling and so on, you would have put this on line 1001. Also, if you were refunded by the Social Security for any sickness benefits or anything of the like, you would have put that value on line 1002. And what we get on line 1003 is your net employment income. All right. Now we have another insert from the IT4B form, and essentially this one aims to capture a bit more of the various sources of income that you possibly could have as a person or as a citizen of the country. So as you see online, 1000, this could be your wages and salary from employment. Line 1001 is the same deductions that we saw from the previous one, and 1002, and we get our net employment income. If the person is in receipt of alimony or maintenance receipts, that goes on line 1200. If that person is in receipt of any taxable dividends, that goes on line 1201. If that person is in receipt of any annuities throughout the year, that goes in 1202. If you also have a business, a small business, we know a lot of people engaging in small businesses, the net operating income from that business goes on line 1203. If you are a part of a partnership from a business venture, your share of your partnership income or loss goes on line 1204. If you happen to be the heir to an estate or trust, that income that you would have received for the past year would go on line 1205. And 1206 is where you report any income that you would have received from overseas sources. And I would like to just add here that, as we mentioned, income taxes or your declaration is supposed to be inclusive of all your sources of income, including income earned overseas. All right. 1208 speaks to losses from prior years. So businesses or persons who are involved in business, either from a partnership or from another type of operation, and let us suppose that person or that business suffered a loss in the previous year, they are allowed to carry that loss forward for the year the year that it occurred, and for 4 additional years. All right, so that loss could be carried forward for 4 additional years. After these calculations are done, that's when you find your net taxable income. So essentially, this one gives a wider range of different or various sources of revenue. All right. So we go now to the computation of taxes on chargeable income. And what we have on line 2000 is, as we spoke about, the allowance or resident allowance, which is 30,000, the mortgage interest, which is 30,000, the student loans, which is 5,000, and whatever value of approved donations that you would have is what goes on this line. For the purposes of the example that we gave, we only had an allowance of $30,000. Therefore, what we calculate on line 2006 is the difference between your net employment income and your total allowances. That gives us a total of, or net of $6,000, and that is how we calculate your chargeable income. Then we go to the computation of taxes. So we're actually going to be using that $6,000 now to calculate what your tax is supposed to be. We bring that $6,000 to the appropriate bracket, which would be scenario or condition A. Condition A or condition 1 would go, that's where you put on the chargeable income your $6,000, and the tax rate for that condition is 15%. So 15% of the $6,000 is $900. And you carry that down to line 3,000, which is your total tax payable on chargeable income. All right, so essentially that is your taxes due on your $36,000 on your $36,000 income, annual income. And the end of the form or the return is just to affix your signature so that you can make it official or legal that you have made this declaration to the Comptroller of Inland Revenue. Okay?
Okay. Thank you very much for this
yes.
detailed process here.
I think...
what if someone has two employers? Now you have two sources of income.
Right.
How do you treat this?
This has to be combined as well. Okay. So what you do is, and for employers, they're supposed to issue their employees at the end of every year TD5. That TD5 will give you all your information as it relates to your income and also the taxes that you have paid by that employer or has been deducted by that employer and remitted to Inland Revenue. So you would then have to combine these two in order to file your income as having two different employers.
So I see you mentioned that it is the employer who has to remit to the IRD on the behalf of the employee.
Yes.
And so therefore it's important that the employee checks with the employer to ensure that the funds are remitted.
Yes.
If the employer does not remit the funds, what are the implications for the employee?
For the employee?
Yeah.
Okay. The employee would still be required to file and the calculations will be done as if he or she had paid the correct amount of taxes. The comptroller would then be pursuing the employer to obtain what is due.
That's right. Yeah. Okay. Good. Now, are there any penalties for not filing your taxes?
Yes, there are penalties for not filing your taxes. For instance, when you file late, there's a 5% late filing penalty for both personal income tax and corporate income tax. There's also a late payment penalty of 10% for both corporate and personal income tax. Also, if you do not file your tax returns at all, under the Section 79(3) of the Income Tax Act, the Comptroller has the authority to a best of judgment, use whatever information that is available, as if that person had filed their tax return. Those penalties would be applicable. Okay.
Now, just for the listeners, you could call at 225-3400. 611-3400. 225-3400. 611-3400. Now, in the event of delinquency in filing for an extended period of time, I've seen situations where people have not filed for 10 years or 8 years. Yeah. How does one get current with filing, though?
Okay, well, first I would like to encourage everyone to file their taxes on time, all right? The process to file, if you haven't filed for a number of years, is essentially the same as if you're filing for your current period. You obtain the form and you get the necessary information necessary to file the taxes, and you complete the form and submit it to the Inland Revenue. What happens then, though, is because of the tardiness of filing, these returns will be subject to various penalties and interest. So there's a 5%, as Mrs. Talbot said, 5% late filing penalty, and also there's a 10% late payment penalty. So for instance, if you were supposed to file your 2015 tax return and you did not, and there was a liability at the time, then that liability will be subject to 10% late payment penalty, and also interest at 1% per month. Yeah, so that would be quite a significant number of months that it will be applied, you know. So we're asking everyone, we're encouraging everyone to continue filing. Those who have been filing and those who have not filed, come to visit the Inland Revenue Division to get your taxes up to date.
Thank you. I believe we have a caller. Caller, please. Good evening.
Yeah, good evening, yeah.
Yeah, good evening to you, sir. Welcome.
People will about the deposit decision.
Sorry, sir. I think we missed you. Yeah, I think we have a... Please try again, caller. Sorry about that. Thank you very much. Now, if someone is self-employed, are they required to file taxes?
Yes, you're still required to file taxes. As long as you're gainfully employed, you're supposed to file the taxes. If they make a profit or loss,
You have to file. You have to file.
as required by law.
Now, what about a farmer, though, or a fisherman? And farming or fishing is the only source of income. Are these people required to file?
Well, under Section 25 of the Income Tax Act, these are listed as exempt sources of income. So they are not required to file. So persons who actually are in receipt of exempt sources of income, they're not required to file, if that's their only source of income.
Okay.
Yeah.
No. Okay. So fishermen, farmers,
Yeah.
do not have to file
Yeah,
taxes.
yeah. It's important to note that.
Yeah,
Yes.
these are fortunate folks in the country. They're special people.
Yeah.
Special people. Okay. Now, in the case of an individual who has, we talk about 2 or more sources of income. How does it affect? You mentioned about joining the incomes.
Yes.
So if somebody's annual income is $36,000 as one employer, and the other is 40,000, then you put it together.
Put it together, that's right.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then the same rates apply
Right.
in accordance with law.
Right, right. So essentially, though, what we have found, and that's why we encourage persons to always walk in, call, or contact the Inland Revenue Division when it comes to their taxes, to be knowledgeable of what they're supposed to do. Because what we have found in the past is that persons who have 2 different employers, each employer would be deducting the taxes based on the rate of pay that they have been paying the employee. And that may have that employee within one particular tax bracket, right? So for instance, the employee, let's say at both of his jobs would be at the 15% bracket, and the employer in both instances would be deducting taxes at that rate.
Yeah.
However, when you combine the 2, it puts you in a different
I see.
category, right? And what that means is that at the end of the year, you may end up having to pay taxes because you're now paying at a higher rate. So that's why we encourage people to come in, call, inquire, so that you can inform us of these things, and then we can advise you so that you don't have to face that enormous burden at the end of the year. We could give you a calculation that you could spread out throughout the entire year to ensure that you're relevant with your taxes.
Yeah, there's a question on Facebook. They're asking, is redundancy taxable?
Redundancy payments?
Payments.
Redundancy payments are a form of taxable earnings. However, payments in general, I would say, are a form of taxable earnings, but redundancy payments would not be, in terms of gratuity payments.
No, redundancy it's not taxed.
Yeah.
So redundancy is not taxed. I think we
so it's like your final, right?
Changed the law some years ago.
Right. So it's your final payment in respect of that particular type of operation or job that you're doing.
That's right.
And then your that income would not be taxed.
Redundancy was taxed before, but I believe we had an issue with DCP, and then we went to Parliament and removed it. Similar to retirement benefits, people paying taxes. And I was shocked to know that somebody who's retired, worked for 30, 40 years, at home, relaxing, still had to pay, income tax, and so I went to Parliament and we amended the law to exempt pensioners from paying taxes. What are your pension was 5,000 or 2,000 or 8,000, it's completely tax-free. Person is asking us from Facebook, if you farm and work for an employer, do you just not include the farming income? Person saying, okay, you're working, but you also do farming. Do you have to include the farming income in your declaration?
No, you don't.
You don't?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, good. Now, in the event of an overpayment though, of taxes, what is the refund process?
In the event of an overpayment, the process is that the return, when it comes in, it goes into the assessing section. The assessing officer would assess that return.
Yeah.
They would review it. Upon verification, ensuring that all supporting documents are okay, then the refund scale could go ahead and process the refund for that individual. However, if that individual owes for prior years, we would not give that individual refund. We will use it to offset whatever outstanding liability is.
Yeah. Okay. I believe you have a short video to show. We'll get this up. It's ready. Thank you.
Filing season. Whether you're working for yourself or on the job for someone else, once you know you had income, you should go and pull out a form and file your taxes, because it's taxes filing season. Visit the Inland Revenue Division on High Street in Roseau or call 767-266-3600 for assistance to file your taxes, because it's taxes filing season.
I did not.
So let us file our taxes, as they say in there. It's important. The country needs every dollar it can get. That would limit it need to borrow. And then we have better roads and better everything, you know. Now, someone asking on Facebook, if your only income is from the domicile Social Security, do you pay taxes?
Social Security, like with any other approved pension scheme, is exempt. So if that is your only source of income, then you also don't have to pay
So you don't have
any
to file?
taxes. No, you don't have to file or pay any taxes against it.
I think we have a call on the line. Caller, good evening. Welcome.
Yes, good evening, very important program.
Thank you.
In the past, the Inland Revenue send you a reminder to remind you of your taxes. But nowadays, I don't think that is done. And the other thing is, if someone is self-employed, can they come to the Inland Revenue and update the Inland Revenue as to their income? So they have a monthly breakdown as to how much they should pay. Can somebody go to the Inland Revenue and say, I'm self-employed, and getting whatever salary, so that they can work out a monthly deduction?
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you, caller, please.
Thank you, caller, for that call. Yes, we used to send reminders before, paper. However, we're trying to go paperless now. We're trying to go to green economy. So what we're doing now, from what I know is that we call taxpayers, or especially those who are delinquent, to remind them of their obligations to file. However, it's like these programs like these, we used to promote the filing of taxes. And then, yes, if a person is self-employed, they could come into the Revenue Division. We have competent and knowledgeable staff who are able to assist you with the in terms of filing your tax returns and how much tax that should be deducted from whatever income that you have.
Okay. No, another caller, please. Caller, welcome.
I was asking whether people did not treat, whether they have to declare that property, not still winners. And those who have deposited building to whether they also have to treat for
Okay.
tax purposes.
Okay. I think he's saying if you have deposits and you're getting interest on these deposits, do you have to declare this?
No, that's not a taxable source of income, no. On your savings account, no. That's not a taxable source of income, no.
Whether it's a fixed deposit or a savings account?
Right, no.
No, you don't have to.
Yeah, no. Interest from other sources could be taxable, but from your savings or from the commercial banks, no, it's not
Okay.
taxable. Yeah.
Okay, thank you. on February 11, 2020, the residential rent tax was passed in Parliament. Can you tell the audience what is the percentage of this new tax?
Yes, well, that new tax is 20% on your net residential income. Essentially, that is a tax on the property owners or the landlords or landladies, where a calculation is done to allow for any expenses relating to the production of that residential rent. And at the end of it, the net amount is taxed at 20%. So in the past, what used to happen is persons with residential rent would apply that income or that net income to their normal personal income tax filings. But what happened since the passing of this particular tax is it is separated. So now you have to file a separate tax return, and you have to include the gross revenue that you receive from the residential rent, and then you also make allowance for all other allowable deductions against that residential rental income. Just to give an example for the viewing public, most people I know, or most people who rent, actually most of them, they rent their downstairs, I would say, you know. So if there's a portion of the mortgage interest that you would have paid that would be applicable to that downstairs, for the construction of that downstairs, then you would apply that portion as an expense against the rental income, as well as if you have insurance premiums that you're paying for that piece of property, then you would also apply that, as well as your other normal revenue expenses that would be incurred in being able to rent that piece of property. So for instance, if you have changed the lock to the door to be able to enter, so that the tenant will be able to enter, then that will be an allowable expense. So you do all these deductions from what you have received, and then you the net of that is taxed at 20%. And you file this, and this is also due by March 31st as well.
Okay,
Yeah.
thank you.
Yeah.
Now, is this applicable only to residential rental properties, though?
Yes, only for residential properties.
Only residential. Okay. Now, what are the penalties, if any, for someone who has a residential rental property but does not comply with this new initiative?
A similar approach using the best of judgment assessment will be done on that person, and the person will be liable for all the associated penalties and interest.
So the penalties there for this?
Yes, there are penalties.
All the taxes.
All the taxes.
And what happens if the individual has a dispute regards to taxable amount presented? I mean, this is almost a normal occurrence.
Yes.
Can this individual object, and what is the process for objecting?
Definitely. Every taxpayer who is aggrieved by any decision made by the comptroller has the objection and appeals process at their disposal. And that's by virtue of Section 87 of the Income Tax Act. What is important to note is that you have a window within which you may object to this assessment, which is 30 calendar days. So within 30 days of receiving the assessment from the comptroller, you could write and state your objection. Also provide evidence as to why you believe that the decision of the comptroller was not correct. In addition to the evidence, or if you would like to add as well whatever areas of law that you think that the comptroller may have heard, but you have that window, you have that opportunity, and the comptroller through the objections section would review and make a decision as to whether or not they will allow or not allow the objection. After that process as well, if you're still not satisfied with that decision from the objection phase, there's still the appeals process where they could write to the appeals board, and then the appeals board would listen to their case and determine whether or not they are satisfied. Additionally, if they're still aggrieved at that stage, they have the courts available to them. So they could still take it to the courts, and obviously the different court levels that we have to make their case heard. You understand? So, yeah.
Okay. Is a caller on the line? Caller, please. Good evening.
Hello, good evening to you.
Yes, good evening to you, sir. Welcome.
And good evening to your guests. I have two questions. I'd like to know if members of government do pay tax, for example, ministers of government and members on the opposite side as well. And I would like to know also if that if officials of government and the other side as well, what are the privileges do you all have at the customs? These are the questions I have.
Well, I pay taxes. I complain all the time. I have to pay taxes myself. I complain to the Minister of Finance from time to time. You know, I don't have a huge salary, but I pay some taxes. And it is deducted from my by the government, by the ministry, the folks, the accounts people. So everybody pays. Everybody has a tax threshold of $30,000. So anything above that, you're taxed. We file our tax returns. I file my tax returns every year. And we also benefit, like everybody else, with the mortgage allowance. You know, I have a situation where I have to pay some taxes this year because, you know, I have dealt with my mortgage issue. So I have to refund about $3,300 and something to the income tax by, but before the 31st. So we can do that tomorrow, God's willing. So we do pay this. In terms of customs, there are no real privileges. As a matter of fact, they treat us badly sometimes at customs. So we have no privileges really. You know, the only exemptions we have as members of parliament is in respect to the purchase of a vehicle, where you have a import duty waiver and also excise tax waiver, which came into effect, I believe, earlier this year. So that's it. You're subjected to every other tax. You go to the supermarkets, you pay VAT. You know, you at the gas pump, you pay excise tax on the price of the gasoline, and we pay income tax like everybody else. So we're not special. We're not treated in a special way from the rest of the country and so forth. And in some other countries you are special, but not here in America. Well, we pay taxes. I feel I should answer the question and not leave it to the public service to respond. Okay, now, in the case of a retiree, we mentioned the retiree is exempted from paying income tax on his retirement benefits. But that retiree's only source of income, the source of income is a rental property, so that person has a rental property. Mm-hmm. What is in place regarding these individuals, though, in regards to filing the taxes? Okay,
well, the amendment did not make any special arrangement for classes of persons. So then that, as long as that retiree is renting a property, he's supposed to file. And however, he's allowed to claim the $40,000 residential allowance.
Okay. So he has to file, person has to file.
Yes.
In respect to the income from the rental property.
Right.
That's it.
That's right.
You have an issue with Inland Revenue, you want to make contact. How does one go about making inquiries, though, to the Inland Revenue?
Well, again, we just want to reiterate that our doors are always open. We actually welcome when persons come to Inland Revenue to ask questions, because what we realize is that they will be compliant, and they realize that they will be paying the correct amount of taxes, you know, so we actually welcome it. And we are open Monday to Friday as the normal public service. We're open on Mondays from 8 to 5 and Tuesdays to Fridays 8 to 4. And we can also be contacted via telephone numbers 266-3600 or 266-3531. Or you could contact the Inland Revenue via our email address at ird@dominica.gov.dm. All right, and our offices are located on High Street. That's our main office, and we also have the large medium taxpayer section at the Financial Center, second floor Financial Center.
Oh, thank you. Any final thoughts, Ms. Talbot?
Yes.
Mrs. Talbot?
Thank you. Yes, I would like to thank everyone who has filed their returns so far. I'd just like to encourage those who have not done so to do so on or before March 31st, 2021. From tomorrow Monday, 29th of March, to Wednesday, 31st of March, we will be outside the financial center and also on the ground floor at one of the government headquarters. So please look out for officers in the yellow shirts. So once you see us in the yellow shirt, just know that's Inland Revenue officers. So please come and file a tax return. Those who are filed, we also want you to encourage your colleagues or your friends to file also. Also, I'd like to thank Team IRD for the excellent work that they're doing so far. Geoffrey Joseph for putting the music together, this audio to the filing tax returns, and our other staff members who assisted in it also. PRO team, great job. I just want to thank each and every one of you all for the support that you have given to us. So let's continue to be as efficient as possible, and let us continue to just give out that customer service that we know that we have best. We have been rated best in customer service. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yes, PM, I would like to thank you for the opportunity that we had this evening to explain to the public some areas of taxation. It's a wide or vast ranging topic, but at least we were able to bring out some of the key points I think that the public should be aware of in terms of filing, especially some of the different allowances and some of the different requirements that they have with respect to income taxes. It was our pleasure actually to be here, and again we're encouraging persons to file their taxes. In addition to the officers who will be stationed outside the financial center and the government headquarters, we also have a tent up at High Street where officers will be available to service the public from that location until Wednesday. So we're encouraging everyone to file to avoid the penalties, to avoid any interest applications. And I'd like to take this opportunity really to thank our management and staff, the comptroller, the deputies, and so on, who have assisted and who have been, I would say, steering the course in terms of ensuring that persons have been filing over the years. And we would like to ask that the public realizes that we have a job and we have a nation to build, and as part of that nation building process, we are required to pay our taxes, the correct amount of taxes. So don't be afraid of Inland Revenue. Come to us, let us help you, and let us help you file and to make sure that you're a good corporate citizen.
Thank you very much. I must commend both of you for being so articulate and in total control of the information, and I want to thank you for your leadership as young people in the public service. And I want to, it's really encouraging to see young people in leadership positions within the public service, and very very engaging, and I want to commend the IRD, everybody there. You guys have worked under very difficult circumstances, recognizing how important your role is to the national good. But I really want to thank everyone at the IRD, for the exceptional. Sometimes people don't talk about about the IRD much, usually in a negative sense because of your role.
Yes.
But I think people need to appreciate the functions of the IRD and the importance of the IRD. And as both Mrs. Talbot and Mr. Joseph have indicated, come forward. You have a query. They're there to guide you, and to see you through the process. It's not a difficult process. It is important for all of us to do this. So I want to thank them for this. I will take a short break, and I will come back for the wrap-up session. Thank you very much.
Taxes filing season. File your taxes, cause it's taxes filing season. Whether you're working for yourself or on the job for someone else, once you know you had income, you should go and pull out a from and file your taxes, cause it's taxes filing season. Visit the Inland Revenue Division on High Street in Roseau or call 767-266-3600 for assistance to file your taxes, cause it's taxes filing season.
I did not imagine that the prayers of my country would have been answered so swiftly.
Vaccine. Under COVID pressure in we country, mentally.
Taxes filing season. File a taxes.
I did not imagine that the prayers of my country would have been answered so swiftly.
Vaccine. Under COVID pressure in we country,
Okay, welcome back. Thank you. You know, this is vaccine period. I've been informed by the Ministry of Health that persons have begun receiving their second dose of the vaccines. The opportunity still remains for those who have not taken the first dose. You know, let us therefore continue to avail ourselves to taking the vaccines. I know there are schisms about the vaccines, but it's important for us to do so. In Dominica, we're working towards a goal to get to 70% of our population vaccinated so that our lives can begin to return to normal. As I've mentioned before, the cruise lines are inquiring about the percentage of our population who are vaccinated. This, I believe, will determine whether they visit our shores. But this, of course, is dependent on you and your willingness to get the shot to help position this country to return to economic activity. I must tell you that some of our sister islands, though receiving a vaccine later than us, have rushed ahead to take the shot. This is because there is an appreciation for the importance of the tourism dollar to their economies. I do not want us to pass up on the opportunity here to do the same, to get our country ready for visitors. Yes, there are efforts being made in other sectors of development. Yes, we are giving support to small businesses and we are making new and lasting investments in agriculture, geothermal, and ICT. But this island remains a much sought after tourist destination. And we must consider the hundreds of Dominicans whose livelihoods are dependent on tourism. So many of us are dependent on tourism, especially cruise tourism and stayover visitors, stayover arrivals. You know, when we have a cruise ship in port, you could see the activities. Tour guides, bus drivers, bus owners, vendors on the various sites across Dominica. These people rely on the tourist dollar to survive and to take care of their families. So let us go out and get vaccinated, my dear brothers and sisters. We have an opportunity, thank God. We have the vaccines. And let us go ahead and get vaccinated. Yesterday in Maho, at the Maho market, there were, people were subjected to, they afforded the opportunity to get vaccinated. I'm happy that several people went out and got vaccinated. It's a very simple process. So please visit your health and wellness centers in your district or call the Ministry of Health hotline 448-2151, 448-2153, 448-2156, or 611-4325. Let us get vaccinated, my friends, if we're going to get to a state of normalcy. It's important for us to get there. This Wednesday, we'll be having our second Cabinet Press Conference, and the media will interact with the Minister for Agriculture and the Minister for Sports, who will be updating you on ongoing projects and programs in their ministries. I wish you a wonderful week. The week coming up is Holy Week. It should be Holy Week every week, but it's a special period, Easter, where we reflect on the journey of Christ on this earth, his death and his resurrection. And it's a time for personal introspection and reflection, and also national reflection as well. And so let us go out there and be the best that we can be. Let us be our brother's keeper, and let us do good by everyone we interact with. Let us go forth and serve our God and to serve our country. This is our country, Dominica. It is our responsibility to build it. We may not always agree on some things, but let us focus on the things we agree while we negotiate the things that we don't have agreement on. Let us always be positive. And as I always say to you, let us look at the glass half full rather than half empty. And let us see how we can add a drop to get it to the brim and to overflow. God bless you. God bless our country, Dominica. Thank you, Bruce. God bless you. God bless you. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Glenson Prince, captain and goalkeeper of the Dominica men's senior national football team. We are off to play in the qualifying rounds of the 2022 World Cup. We've only been able to practice and prepare for this tournament by observing all safety protocols, and because Dominica has done such a fantastic job in preventing the spread of COVID-19 here. We want to keep playing football, but without the restrictions of a pandemic. We want to get back to playing in front of large crowds. We want to play for you. Help us get back to full stadiums playing the greatest game on earth. Get back!
Take the vaccine. Take the vaccine. Take the vaccine. This is a message from Tasha P. and the Health Promotion Unit of the Ministry of Health, Dominica.